night of 6th and 7th May, we saw an absolutely brutal attack in Pakistan. We saw Indian airstrikes where India claimed 9 sites, but Pakistan is still set on 6. The National Security Council has already met, and the Prime Minister has already talked about how grievous this situation is. We have Shahzeb Jillani with us today, and we'll be digging into this further. So, Shahzeb, did you see this as a shock at all? Because it seemed as if you looked at the Indian media industry, they were preparing for war for a very long time, and very, very vehemently so.
We had been hearing from the government ministers, especially the defense minister, almost daily that an attack is imminent, and we were expecting this. Obviously, it's been 2 weeks since the attack in Indian occupied Kashmir, in which 26 tourists were killed. So this was expected, and Pakistan had been saying for a while that we are fully prepared. If there is a misadventure from India, we will respond. And it's kind of what we have seen overnight. The attacks by India were responded to according to Pakistan. And the Prime Minister, in his address to the Parliament, said we have shot down 5 Indian jets, including 3 Rafale aircrafts. Now, this has not yet been substantiated. Yeah. It is a claim that Pakistan's army spokesperson made last night, the information minister, and basically now the government is saying this is how we have responded, and this is how we promised to respond. So the speech that the Prime Minister made in the Parliament had basically 3 points. He said we are capable of responding, and we have shown that capability. We are willing to respond really hard. He said he also called on Pakistan's various political parties to unite. He again reached out to the opposition, Imran Khan's party, saying this is the time we need to put aside our differences. And he said, in responding to India, we have still exercised restraint. He said we could have attacked more aircrafts and caused more damage, but we want to send a very clear signal that should India look for further escalation, they will find us prepared.
Yeah, no, that seems very true. And also, I think there's a huge point to be made about how Pakistan's response is being perceived by the global media. The global messaging is very clear that Pakistan has definitely shown restraint. But what do you see? We are also seeing that there's a lot of wordplay going on, in terms of using the word retaliate or attack. Yeah. What is this really? Is it an incident? Is it an attack? Is it a retaliation? So how do you see it?
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I was looking at international coverage, and invariably, they are describing it as Indian retaliation to the April 22 terrorist attack in Pahalgam. That's interesting, because Pakistan is saying this is an attack, because we haven't attacked India, and Pakistan says we have condemned that terrorism. We have asked for independent investigation by any country.
Multiple offers have been
Multiple
made.
offers. Yeah. So Pakistan's position is that this was an attack, and this was an act of aggression. And that is why Pakistan reserves every right to defend its territory and respond. But that's not how international media is looking at it. And they, in these things, it really depends, when you say this is a response or this is retaliation, how far back do you go? For example, Pakistan can say that the situation in Kashmir has been lingering for 7 decades.
I mean, if you were to ask Donald Trump, he would say it would go back 1500 years.
Yeah, he doesn't know the region's history, and he says all sorts of stuff. But we know for a fact that it goes back at least 7 decades. And if you don't want to go that far back in history, at least it goes back to the time when Prime Minister Modi changed the status of Kashmir, its special status, Article 370, bifurcation. To a lot of people, that is the root cause. That's why Kashmiris are angry. Now, nobody's trying to justify the militant attack or the violence, but there are deep-rooted frustrations in Kashmir which India doesn't want to recognize, doesn't want to address. It wants to pretend that this is a place where there used to be terrorism and now there is tourism. Well, that has been proved wrong. And so Kashmir remains a centerpiece. Both India and Pakistan have to address it. And if they don't, this will keep happening. We will be at the same place every few years.
Definitely. But interestingly, for some reason, we can see a united front when it comes to civil military leadership right now. And you have also pointed this out, Shehbaz Sharif has also pointed this out. But to what extent do you really think it is true? And to what extent would you say this union is rather superficial at this point? Or is it momentary? Do you think there would be a long-term consequence of this, by chance sort of a union happening right now?
Well, the power sharing agreement of the current government and even the previous government, when Imran Khan was in power, when you are attacked from outside, you have no option but to close ranks. And in current atmosphere, the existential debate of civil military imbalance in Pakistan goes to the side, because now it's about defense. Now it's about supporting your armed forces. Now it's about raising the morale. And if you see across party lines, even the opposition PTI, you have no option but to say, yes, we will stand up for the defense of this country, and we are with our armed forces, because that's what their job is. That's what they're paid for.
Finally, they're getting to do it.
Yeah, and if they're getting to do it, we are fully behind them. The problem which you are sort of hinting at is when the armed forces kind of go out of that domain and meddle in politics and judiciary and everything. That is our internal debate that we will continue to have, and there are all kinds of push and pull. But at the moment where we are today, the focus is very clear that the nation needs to stand together against aggression. I'm not saying we should contribute to war hysteria or disinformation or chest thumping, but yes, as a nation, if you are attacked by your neighbor, you have to put up a united front.
Definitely, and I feel that on some level this will be a good, some sort of maybe it would have like a healing touch to the kind of political instability we've been having these days, especially in terms of how the National Security Committee's role is. So now today, when they have come out and given a statement as well, there's a very clear, coherent response that has been formulated. The international press has also just now begun to react to it. How do you read it? What do you think should be the biggest takeaway from this?
From the National Security
Committee
meeting? Look, that is again a civil military forum to decide on response, strategy and tactics. It does not include the opposition or the full political spectrum of the parliament. For that, things have to be discussed in parliament. Now, one place where I think the government has failed, it should have called an all parties conference, which is what the opposition has been calling for. There is no harm in it. If you are genuine in closing ranks, that's what you would do. You would recognize that yes, there are people in opposition and we disagree on a lot of things, but on this instance there are no disagreements, so we are willing to sit down and discuss things with you. The government did not did that, and it baffles me why it didn't. It should have.
Perhaps we could expect something like this in the coming weeks. What do you think?
Well, it would be good if you are genuine in this call for the opposition to join hands with you in the defense of the country. Then you should have no problem inviting them, talking to them, and they should also show some magnanimity. That we can put aside our differences, we can fight our battles another day. But right now, we do need to put a united front because your country is essentially under attack.
So I think another very interesting point was also how in the days leading up to this attack, Indian media was robust with all kinds of claims. They were talking about justifying ethnic cleansing, they were talking about justifying collective punishment, they were actually purposefully advocating for war. While simultaneously Pakistani media was basically putting in a lot of effort into showing that we are fine, we are not that stressed out. Now it seems like the tables might have turned a little bit, maybe we should be a little bit stressed out. So how do you see that now that the attack has happened? What kind of role should Pakistani media be playing? What kind of strategy should newsrooms be following?
Well, look, as we say, the first casualty of war is the truth, right? And when hostilities break out, both sides try to promote their own point of view, to rally the nation. There's a lot of disinformation, even right now. For example, our side has said we have shot down 5 jets, Indian jets. We have yet to get a confirmation, and we may never get a confirmation actually. If you think back to the previous escalation, India made lots of claims, like it said we've shot down Pakistani jet. We said no, sorry. So they can create their own bubble and we can create our own bubble to satisfy our domestic audience, and these claims, counter claims will carry on.
Yeah.
But for the public, it's hugely important to double check things, to be skeptical of official information, because in the fog of war, there's all sort of propaganda, and that we have to be mindful of. As far as our mainstream news channels are concerned, you know and I know that media is heavily controlled in Pakistan and in India. In India, it's the corporate media beholden to Modi machinery. In Pakistan, we know how the government tries to control, micromanage news channels, newspapers, and increasingly the digital space.
Yeah.
That's why one has to be really, really careful in what you see and check sources, verify things, because it's very easy to stir up, anger, hatred, euphoria
for the other.
For example, the language we are using for them, they are using for us. I don't know whether it contributes to anything, because sooner or later they will have to de-escalate. And if this is becoming a new normal, that every time there's escalation, there are some strikes, innocent people die on both sides, right? Even in the last 24 hours, civilians have died on Pakistani side, and some civilians have died on the Indian Kashmiri side. Mind you, most of them are Muslims. So Pakistan is in a fix. If Pakistan retaliates across the line of control, Muslim Kashmiris die on the other side. So while that is happening, I think as a nation, yes, we reserve the right to retaliate and our defense, but we should all be calling for de-escalation, for things to be resolved diplomatically, because this has gone on for far too long, and it has kept this entire region and millions in this region in poverty and destitution, because we are just not tired of playing these war games.
Yeah, and also often we use these rhetorics for our own purposes. Indian government has used this war rhetoric to basically subjugate and oppress Indian Muslims way further and justify that suffering. So perhaps in the days to come we will find out what exactly this war will bring for both nations. But for now, at Dawn we will always be hoping for further de-escalation.